This marriage means nothing." Those were his first words to me as we stood in the hotel room, the city lights dripping through the window like melted stars. No hello, no smile, just that sentence, dropped like a blade across the silence. And maybe I should have broken right then. Maybe I should have screamed or begged or reminded him that I was his wife now, that a ring still warmed my finger. But instead, I just stood there, staring at him like I was trying to memorize his face before it disappeared. "I want you to understand something, because you're listening to me like you're close enough to hear my heartbeat. This wasn't an arranged marriage in the fairy tale sense. It wasn't some childhood dream stitched into reality. It was survival, a deal, a name tied to a name because families wanted power, not love. And I walked into it knowing he didn't want me. But the way he said it, his voice low, tired, like he'd been holding that line on his tongue for months, it still cracked something in me. I whispered, "Then why marry me?" He didn't even look at me when he answered. He was loosening his tie, eyes fixed on the dark skyline. "Because my father wanted it, because yours did too, and because sometimes life isn't about what we want." There was no cruelty in his tone, just resignation, and somehow that made it worse. His name was Mason, and Mason had the kind of presence that filled a room even when he was silent. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a sharp jaw that looked carved out of stone. Everything about him was control, precision, except his eyes. His eyes gave him away. They were restless, stormy, like he was always fighting something no one else could see. I hated that I noticed. And in that moment, when the space between us felt wider than the entire state of New York, I whispered, "So that's it? We're strangers with the same last name?" Finally, he looked at me. And God, I wish he hadn't, because something flickered there. Something that wasn't hate, wasn't indifference either. Just a shadow of longing buried under all the walls he'd built. "You don't want to know me," he said quietly. "Try me." That made him laugh. A bitter, low sound. "If you knew the things I've done, you wouldn't even stand this close to me." And I should have backed away. But instead, I took one small step toward him, like a fool testing the heat of fire. My voice was softer than I meant it to be. "Then show me." Silence. The kind of silence that feels alive, thick, almost dangerous. He broke it with a whisper, "Don't tempt me." That's how it began. Not with love, not even with kindness, but with two people caught in something bigger than them, circling each other like it was a game neither of us had chosen to play. The first night we didn't touch. He slept on the far side of the bed, his body rigid, turned away from me. And yet, I couldn't sleep. I lay there, staring at the back of his head, wondering what scars he hid, what secrets lived under his skin. By morning, something had shifted. Not between us. No, he was still distant, curt, a man made of brick walls. But inside me, because somewhere between his silence and his stormy eyes, I realized I wanted to break through. Not for the sake of the marriage, not because of family expectations, but because I wanted to know who Mason was when no one was watching. The problem was, every time I tried to get close, he pushed me away. One night, a few days into the honeymoon, I caught him on the balcony with a glass of whiskey, shoulders tense, staring at the ocean. The moonlight cut across his face, and he looked tired. So tired it made my chest ache. I stepped outside quietly. "You don't sleep much, do you?" He didn't turn. "You don't stop asking questions, do you?" "Maybe I just want to understand you. Maybe I don't want to be understood." There it was again, that wall. But this time I didn't back off. I leaned against the railing beside him, close enough to feel the tension rolling off him. "You think pushing me away makes this easier?" "It doesn't. We're married, Mason. Whether you like it or not, we're in this together." His jaw clenched. He took a long sip of his drink, then finally said, "Together? You don't even know what that means in my world." "Then tell me." "You wouldn't survive it." The words landed heavy, but instead of scaring me, they pulled me closer. Because he wasn't saying I wasn't strong. He was saying he was dangerous. He was saying he carried something that could break me, and maybe that should have been my cue to run. But instead, I whispered, "Try me." He turned then, slowly, deliberately. His eyes met mine in the moonlight, and I swear my breath caught. Because for just a second, all the storm, all the shadows in him, they cracked. And what I saw underneath wasn't a monster. It was a man who wanted to be seen, but didn't know how to let anyone close enough to do it. And in that second, I knew. This marriage might have started as nothing, but it could become everything. I just didn't know how much it would cost me to prove it. He leaned closer, so close I could feel the heat of his breath. His voice was low, rough. "Careful, Emily. You're playing a dangerous game." My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might shatter my ribs. "Then let me lose." And that was the moment. The spark. The one line that tied us together in ways neither of us could untangle. Because when his lips brushed mine, hesitant, fierce, like he hated himself for wanting it, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't falling into a marriage. I was falling into Mason. And there was no way out. You want to know the truth? That kiss ruined me. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. It was supposed to be a slip, a mistake, something he could take back the second it happened. But Mason didn't pull away fast enough. Neither did I. His mouth tasted like whiskey and fire, and the way his hand brushed my jaw, it felt like he was holding something fragile he was afraid to break. And then, just as quickly, he let go. He stepped back, eyes dark, chest rising and falling too fast. That didn't happen. My lips were still trembling. But it did. I said it didn't. His voice was sharp, but his eyes begged me to stop. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But every time he turned from me, I felt something inside me clawing to be seen. You're probably wondering why I didn't just give up. Why I didn't let him keep his walls. The truth? Because for the first time in my life, someone wasn't pretending. Mason didn't fake affection, didn't offer empty promises. His honesty was brutal, but at least it was real. And I craved real. The days blurred, sun-soaked beaches we never touched, dinners eaten in silence, the weight of 1,000 unsaid words pressing on us both. But the nights were different. That was when the cracks showed. Like the night I woke up to hear him whispering in his sleep. His voice was raw, broken, like a man begging ghosts for forgiveness. I couldn't catch all the words, but one name kept slipping through his clenched teeth. Eli. By morning, he was gone. When I found him hours later, he was on the edge of the pool, shirt off, muscles tense, staring at the water like it had answers. I sat down beside him quietly. "Who's Eli?" He froze. His knuckles whitened against the concrete. For a long moment, I thought he'd get up and leave. Instead, he muttered, "You don't stop, do you?" "No," I whispered. "Because you don't sleep unless you're haunted. Because you drink like you're trying to drown something. Because you act like this marriage is nothing, but your eyes, they keep saying otherwise." His jaw tightened. He didn't look at me, but his voice cracked anyway. "Eli was my brother." Silence, the kind that makes your throat ache. "What happened?" I asked softly. Mason finally turned his head toward me, and I swear I'd never seen a man look more broken. "He died because of me." And in that moment, the storm inside him made sense. The guilt, the walls, the way he looked at me like he wanted to get close but couldn't let himself. I whispered, "You can't keep punishing yourself forever." He snapped back, voice sharp like a whip. "Don't pretend you understand." The words cut, but I didn't move. I stayed right there, even when his eyes burned into mine. "Then help me understand." Something in him cracked again. His shoulders slumped, his breath uneven. He whispered so softly I almost didn't hear it. I don't know how to stop seeing his face. And before I could stop myself, I reached out and touched his hand. His fingers twitched like he wanted to pull away, but he didn't. He let me hold on. That was the night everything shifted. Not in a big cinematic way. No kisses under fireworks. No vows of forever, just a hand held in the dark, two broken people sitting side by side, admitting for the first time that maybe, just maybe, we needed each other. The days that followed weren't easier. If anything, they were harder. Because once you see cracks in someone's armor, you can't unsee them. I started noticing everything. How Mason flinched at the sound of sirens, how he clenched his jaw when he got phone calls, how his eyes softened when he thought I wasn't looking. And then came the night that changed everything. We were at dinner. The silence stretched thin between us when Mason finally spoke. His voice was low, almost dangerous. You don't understand the people you're tied to now, Emily. My family, my father, the world I'm part of. This marriage? It wasn't just about uniting two names. It was about locking you into a life you can't escape. My fork slipped from my hand. What do you mean? His eyes met mine, and the storm there almost swallowed me. I mean, if you stay close to me, you'll bleed. Sooner or later, you'll bleed. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But instead, I whispered, "Then let me bleed with you." He stared at me like I was insane. Maybe I was. Because when he stood, when he slammed his chair back, when he snapped, "You don't know what you're asking for," all I could do was stand too. And then he kissed me. Hard, desperate, like a man fighting against himself and losing. His hands tangled in my hair, mine gripping his shirt like I was afraid he'd disappear. And for the first time, it wasn't hesitation. It wasn't restraint. It was fire. When he pulled back, both of us breathless, his forehead pressed against mine. "You'll regret this," he whispered. My lips trembled, but I said it anyway. "Not if it's with you." The sound that escaped him, half growl, half broken laugh, made my heart twist. And that's when everything started unraveling. Because that night, for the first time, Mason didn't push me away. He let me in. He held me like he was terrified to lose me, kissed me like he was starving, and whispered my name like it was the only thing anchoring him. But the deeper we sank into each other, the clearer the danger became. His phone buzzed with messages he wouldn't let me see. He disappeared for hours with excuses that didn't add up. And sometimes, when he thought I was asleep, he stood at the window with a gun in his hand, watching shadows move in the street below. I knew something was coming. I just didn't know when. Until one night, our last night in the city, he came back to the hotel room with blood on his shirt. My heart stopped. He froze when he saw me waiting, eyes wide, hands shaking. For a moment, neither of us breathed. Then, in a voice I'll never forget, he whispered, "I told you, Emily. I told you being with me would destroy you." And in that instant, I knew the choice I had to make. Stay, and risk being swallowed by whatever darkness he was hiding. Or leave, and tear my heart out of my chest in the process.